Welcome to the Binge Dietitian podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Sumner, registered dietitian, focusing on helping men and women end binge eating, end food guilt, and finally say yes to life. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not substitute for medical and personalized advice. Hi guys, welcome to this episode of the Binge Dietitian podcast. Let's talk about a big topic that most people, even those not struggling with binge eating, have so many questions about. The reason you can't control yourself around sugary foods. We'll be talking about the reason why you somehow find yourself eating a meal, then maybe an hour later, you start walking to the cupboard where you store your sugary sweets, and it's as if you're being pulled in like a magnet. Then you can't control yourself around chocolates, donuts, cakes, and cookies. I'll explain today the 3 reasons why you can't control yourself around sugary foods and what you can do to gain control over these episodes. But before I start, when I say sugary foods, what other words do you associate it with? Do you start to think of other words like bad foods, junk foods, guilt foods? We have to have a bird's eye view into the way we see these foods and the morals we place into foods. Food is food. It's not bad, evil, or sinful. Placing morals into foods worsens our self-esteem whenever we do tend to eat them. We should stop seeing foods as good or bad, but rather simply see them as sources of energy, with some providing more nutrition than others, because that is essentially what all foods are, just energy. And I completely understand if you see food with morality, because it's what diet culture has forced us to think about. If we eat couscous, quinoa, broccoli, tofu, then we're good. If we eat pizza, donuts, and cookies, then we're bad. That is what diet culture guilt shames into us. Also, you may have seen lots of advertisements for healthy foods or healthy products, labeling themselves as guilt-free, or add words such as, feel better about yourself after buying this. Foods or products should not have any higher moral value than another. The reason why most companies do this is because research shows that if you want to sell well, you have to tap into people's emotions, their insecurities. So let's not fall into the trap of falling prey into adding morality to foods. Food is just food. So now that side note on morality and food is done, now let's get straight to the 3 ways why you can't control yourself around sugary foods and what you can do. So let's start with number 1. You are full, but you are not satisfied. If you're snacking on sugary foods in the afternoon, you may want to revisit what your lunch was. It may have been filling, but did it actually satisfy you? There's a difference between being full and satisfied. A meal that most people find makes them full when they go on diets is a classic chicken, broccoli, and rice. Of course, it is filling, but is it satisfying? Did you actually enjoy it? You may have, but most people won't. When we eat meals, we have to be full and satisfied. We have to fill in that physical hunger and that mental hunger. We can do this by having meals which are filling, but also satisfying. So, how can we turn a meal that is just filling into something that is filling and satisfying? You'll have to make sure that meal is delicious, as simple as it sounds. To do this, you can probably add some teriyaki sauce onto the chicken, or maybe turn it into a curry with curry sauce. Add butter chicken sauce, and many more. Whatever you find makes it more delicious. You can apply this into any meal. If you're having a plain salad and vinegar, for example, you can add a delicious dressing into it. Add some chicken, add some bacon. The key to make meals more satisfying is to stop focusing on keeping the calories as low as possible and try to add whatever you feel makes it more delicious, so you're full and satisfied. And this will make you less likely to snack on sugary foods later on, just to fill in that little satisfaction. Number 2, the reason why you can't control yourself around sugary foods. You over-restrict. Do you ever find yourself saying, I'll never have chocolate again, or I'll avoid all sugar this month and try to be good. Remember that the more you restrict, the higher the chances are to binge or overeat. Instead of using the words like avoid or stop all sugary foods, use the words such as reduce instead. Try to find sustainability with your eating habits. If you're eating 5 bars of chocolate a day, then avoiding all chocolate is going to make you crave so much chocolate that you'll probably end up eating more than you'd normally eat in a day. So try to focus on reducing, not restricting. So if you're having 5 bars of chocolate a day, try to go to maybe 4 and see how you get on. And then progress to maybe 3. Over-restricting sugary foods puts our mindset into placing them on a pedestal, where we tend to see them as this magical reward food that we can only get when we deserve them. By keeping them regularly into our diet and having them regularly, this will place them down the pedestal, making them seem something that is just normal. This forbidden food will become a neutral food. And number 3, the reason why you can't control yourself around sugary foods? Maybe you need the sugar. Have you ever thought the reason why your body may be needing the sugar is because you've been restricting it so much that your energy levels actually go down? Maybe you needed the sugar that time for concentration or a workout, or you simply just had to honor that craving that time. And you don't have to explain why, and that is okay. Our brains run heavily on glucose, which is a sugar broken down to its most simplest form. When we're stressed, our body may need that energy to provide to the brain to process all the information going on. So did you ever find yourself studying intensely and having a craving for sugar? Did you ever feel so stressed at work that you tend to go for the muffins at the back of the office? This is completely normal and there's nothing to be ashamed about. Eating sugar is just a way of supporting your brain. So many other healthcare professionals and documentaries sugar shame us into thinking that sugar is terrible for us. However, coming straight from me, a dietitian, honoring our needs is what is most important for your body. There's so many people fear-mongering sugar into us and judging us when, in reality, chemically, sugar is just energy at its most simplest form. If you have a craving, honor it just by eating it. If you're going to restrict, your energy levels may decrease over time and you may start to crave them. Food is simply energy, and we all need energy. So thanks guys for listening to this episode, and just to recap, here are the 3 reasons why you can't control yourself around sugar. Number 1, maybe you are full, but you are not satisfied. Number 2, maybe you can't control yourself around sugar because you're over-restricting. And number 3, maybe you simply needed the sugar, and it was your body's way of telling you it needs energy for this period in time. So let's stop fear-mongering and sugar shaming. Sugar is simply energy, and our body needs it. So when you get a sugar craving, honor it and move on, because this could be a sign that your body may need something. So thank you for listening to this podcast episode. And if you feel that you enjoyed this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you rated it well on this podcast platform. I also want to put it out there that if you're struggling with binge eating, man or woman, then I offer one-to-one coaching for people who are struggling, and I also provide guided dietetic advice in order for you to be binge-free and to finally be at peace with food, so you can focus on truly enjoying your life. So if you're interested, I offer a free 15-minute non-obligatory discovery call. And this can be found in the link in the description of this podcast, or you could head to bingedietitian.com. So once again, thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys! If you found this podcast helpful, you would definitely benefit from my binge eating freedom course in my website, bingedietitian.com. Learn more about the triggers to why you're binge eating and how to stop binge eating for good. No more food guilt, no more jumping from diet to diet, and no more shame. Go to the link in this episode for my binge eating freedom course to be one step closer to being binge free, starting today.